how do I plan out my life
Yeah.
so that I'm not giving up my career and my motherhood?
A lot of the times, organizations and outdated models associate productivity with visibility, meaning being there all day or available all the time. And that's what I love about mothers is like, if you want something done in a certain time frame, ask a mother to do it. When you pour into you, you will just become a better person for yourself and for those that you're supporting, right? Like depleting yourself of your interests and what lights you up is not in service to others around you or that are depending on you. We live in the world of comparison right now,
Yes.
especially with social media and things like that. Like, wow, she looks like she's got XYZ all together. But you don't know what she's truly had to give up. You don't know if there is a nanny, a house cooker, a cleaner, this, that. You just don't know, right? Unless
Yeah.
someone's like super open about what all that stuff looks like.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Busy Moms Get It Done podcast. I am so excited for today's conversation. I am pleased to welcome Khiara Cureton, executive career and coach and wealth coach. She is the founder of AncHer Co, a
Mhm.
firm that helps moms achieve those career goals and opportunities. And I'm so excited because I feel like Khiara stands for what I stand for, which is like you can do both, even if
Yes.
it's hard. You can do both. So thank you so much, Khiara, for joining me on today's conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. I'm very excited for this conversation.
Yeah, so I love your story because, and I hope you can jump right in at the point
Let's do it.
where you found out you were pregnant at the point in the pandemic, that big C, and you found out you're pregnant. What was your life like before that? And then were you worried about life changing, or did you even ever, was this planned, or how did it go?
Sure. So I've always known that I wanted to be a mother. The big question was just like, when was that going to happen? And so I, right before I found out, I would say I was definitely knee deep in my career. I was in consulting at the time. And you may know this, but consulting, you're in consulting and you grow pretty quickly. Like you grow really
Mm,
fast in consulting. But it's a lifestyle, right? I was living out of hotel rooms and my suitcase Monday through Thursday, and then I was literally home Friday, Saturday, and sometimes I would turn right back around on Sunday or first thing Monday morning. And so I knew it was a grind, but I was in my very early 30s at the time, and I was like, is this what I want? Like, what does this
mm,
look like? But I was still grinding, right? Like that's what I knew. My whole life, you're told get a good, go to school, get a good career, do your thing. And so honestly, my son was not planned at that time. Like we were not trying specifically for that time. But I think, kind of what we were talking about before, there's never like a best time to do something. And so I would say, honestly, getting pregnant and finding out that I was pregnant really forced me and us, but me specifically, to really think long and hard and deep about like, what does my career look like? What does my life look like? Like, what are my goals now that like I know I've always wanted to be a mother? Here I am. Here's this beautiful opportunity to pause. And although a lot of hardship and things also came out of unfortunate things came out of the pandemic as well, it also really forced me to pause because you couldn't do anything. You couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't do anything. And so I would say that it was a beautiful way of the universe telling me to slow down, like in all facets of life, and just to get really quiet and really sit and think, like, what do you truly want, right? Like, forget about titles, forget about money for a quick second. What do you want in this like new season of your life? And the answer was overwhelmingly that, and I've said this before, even my child, like I never wanted to lose myself in motherhood. I had an
mm.
early experience to that where I was not with a child in my very early part of my career. And I had a coworker who literally was like, running ragged. Like she would show up to work at 6 a.m., work till, 3, 4, go run her kids all around, like based off of what she's telling me. Right. And I was just thinking to myself, like, when do you have time to just date your husband? When do you have time to just
Yeah.
do things for yourself? And so that was my first experience with being like, I know I want babies, but I don't want to lose myself in that process. And it's so easy to do that. And society expects you to do that. And so I took that little nugget with me. Fast forward about 10 years later when I had to implement it myself. So that's what life kind of looked like at that time. So yeah.
So you kind of had to make what you decided, like, what do I
Mhm.
want, right? You knew you
Right.
didn't want to lose yourself in motherhood, but you also knew that you also wanted to be like there and present, right? So
Correct.
can you walk me through like how you had to reorient your career and yourself in that moment?
Absolutely. I was working for a firm that I absolutely love the people that I worked with. But again, back into that consulting work, most consulting work, well, the company that I was working for, um, most roles were travel based. Now,
Mm,
granted, we were not traveling at that time. No one knew when we were going to get back on the road. But I really had to think like, is this what I wanted? And the answer was no. Like overwhelmingly, like, no, I did not want to be away from my child 4 days a week. Some people do it. Kudos to them. That's just not how I wanted to show up. So I knew that I would have to find an organization that one supported working parents, in particular working mothers, as well as would not look at motherhood as a hindrance
yeah.
to my growth and my like strategic leadership ability. And I just thankfully, again, since we were in the pandemic, I had, and this was closer to like 2021. I really was like, okay, my baby is like not a newborn anymore. Like I'm ready to like get back into this career thing,
Yeah.
like for me. And so I really just had to start interviewing with organizations and asking them very pointed questions and saying, hey, like, how are you supporting your working parents? How are you growing your working parents? And so forth. So I shifted to thinking about finding companies that were in alignment, bless you, that were in alignment
Thank
with
you.
what I saw for the next season of my life and my career.
How was that? Because I feel like a lot of moms, we kind of had that fear. I don't know if I'm the
Mhm.
only one that has that fear. And it took me a while to get to the point where I'm like, no, I know what I want. I know
Yeah.
the way I want to fashion my life.
Mhm.
And so like I can't just be like looking at every company.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that the companies I'm looking at
Yeah.
aligns with the kind of life that I want to be. And so
Mhm.
for you to go into those interviews and being like, well, tell me about your, the
Right.
people that are parents, how does that fit? Was there a little bit of fear in that, or did you just have to go beyond that fear? And how did they respond? And how did you
Yeah.
filter out those companies who were like, yeah, yeah, for sure, but you
Yeah.
could tell that they're not?
Great question. So there, I did not have fear because I knew what I wanted and I knew what I was not going to, put up with. Right. So honestly, what I did is I did a lot of the pre-work. So what I would do is I would go on their websites. I would see, do they say anything about parents, whether it be an ERG, whether it be a benefit, the way they facilitate their benefits. And honestly, like I have absolutely no problem cold reaching out to people. I would literally reach out to people that were there. If I got, I created a little list, started scratching folks off and whatnot. And I would reach out to people if I could find their ERG lead. I reached out to them on LinkedIn and I'm like, hey, I'm considering applying here. What is the company culture? Is there something that you can tell me about? So for me, I initially started to filter on the front end before I even got in the seat to interview because, time is, of the essence here. So I was very strategic about the companies that I was reaching out to making sure that there was some little sprinkle of something about caregiving in a way.
No, that's awesome. And so what steps did you take to go from like you reached out to
Mhm.
people and then going from I want to get into the career part, right? How
Yeah.
did you, when you got back into that position,
Mhm.
right? How did you begin to juggle it all?
Yeah.
What were the challenges that you faced? I mean, especially, I
Sure.
mean, I think it took at least 2 years before things went back to normal, even I'll say
Mhm.
3 years,
Mhm.
2023-ish.
Mhm.
But once things did get back to normal, what was that process like?
Honestly, giving myself grace and, I was learning a new role. I still feel like I'm learning how to parent. And he's 5 years old at this point, going on 6 later this year. And so for me, it was about my boundaries. Like it was
Mm,
about, you know, I am working between these hours and these hours. I'm a morning person. So I have no problem waking up at 5 a.m., responding to emails, even if I set it to send at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I didn't send it immediately because I didn't want people to, start getting alarmed and whatnot. But that's what worked for me, right? I'm like, okay, I got my workout in, my child is still asleep. What else can I do? Let's get a start to the day. Then at that point too, we were blessed because we had our grandparents, his grandparents. So grandparents for the win. He didn't start daycare till about 18 months. But then when he was away, so in all, once I was present with him, it was like in family, this is their time. When I'm present with work, as long as I wasn't getting a call from the school that he was sick or something to that effect, like I was present with work. And I think one of the things that I'm actually studying right now as I'm writing my book is I think a lot of the times organizations and outdated models associate productivity with visibility, meaning being there all day or available all the time. And that's what I
Mm.
love about mothers is like if you want something done in a certain time frame, ask a mother to do it. Because what someone may have 2 days to do, a mother will lock in and get that thing done in 5 hours, right? If she's strategic and focusing on it. So for me, I had to just stick to those boundaries and really just be present with whatever was in front of me at that time. And I just, I don't know, maybe I'm just older and wiser now, but I'm just very transparent with all, the folks that I work with, my leaders and so forth. And I've yet to get any feedback that nothing is getting done. So until I get that feedback, I feel like what I'm doing is working so far.
No, I love that because I work from home with my kids. So they're usually always here. They're not here right now, but they're
Yeah.
usually always
Yeah.
here. And so it's kind of like that push. I feel like that idea of visibility a little
Hmm.
bit. So
Hmm.
I'm not able to be as like, visible in the office.
Sure.
And so I'm like, oh, is that hurting me? But the idea, like maybe you don't need to be visible
Yeah.
completely. Maybe the fact that you are still getting your work done makes you completely visible, right?
Right.
And so maybe that's the new mindset of like let's focus on the productivity and not on
Yes.
like can you presently see me?
Right. Or just be available all day. First of all, we are humans and our
Mm.
focus doesn't even go for 8 hours. You know what I mean? So
Right, I know.
that's why when anyone tries to say something about, oh, you got to work XYZ number of hours, first of all, we're all different, but our attention spans really don't support that. So to me, it would make sense for somebody to have more meaningful work that they are focused on for like five some odd hours versus working, 10, 12 hours. Now, again, I will clarify and say that this doesn't necessarily apply to all fields of,
Yes, yes, yes,
may not be the
yes.
best setup for all fields. And like healthcare is one that comes to mind. You know what I mean? Like most, you know, clinician shifts are longer than 5 hours. But so anyways, yeah, I think, we are just in a outdated model of just what that looks like nowadays, many of us are taking on a lot more caregiving responsibilities and it's not just about kids. It's also about aging
Very
parents, right? And our
important.
boomers and so forth getting older or some are in that middle where they're caring for aging and children, so they're really squeezed there. But I think there are some beautiful skill sets that the caregiving side of us that we can build from that we can take into our everyday, careers and jobs as well too. So again, it's just about aligning with companies and organizations that are a lot more forward thinking versus what's they've been doing, what's always, they've always done and what's worked in the past.
So we connected through Podmatch, which I guess I'm giving
Yes.
them a shout out here. But in
Yeah.
your bio, you said you had a financial planner, but you didn't
Mhm.
have someone who understood how to align your career strategy with your
Yeah.
financial future, which I thought was
Yes.
very interesting.
Yeah.
So what kind of person did you feel like you need? Because like I think what I is striking about you is the fact that you're like, this is what I want, this is how I'm gonna get it. Now let's
Yeah.
find it. So how would you suggest moms who are like, yeah, I want to be, present, but I also don't want to like let go of money,
Yeah.
like I have to be realistic with both. What kind of person that was needed in that middle that you think that moms also need to have today?
Absolutely. So yes, I think we're going back to when I started AncHer. So I did have a financial planner, and most financial planners are more like future thinking, retirement, like all that stuff, which great. Um, but then what I felt like I was missing, and then I had career mentors, right? That I was like, what
Mm,
do I do? Like I'm in this new season of life and motherhood and so forth. And I felt like I didn't have someone who was thinking about your career, your every day to day finances and just your whole financial picture, right? Most of the time when we talk about money and careers, it's just about salary negotiation, which, yes, is a very important part of it. But also, too, what are you doing with that money that you're getting? You could be making all the money in the world, but if you're blowing it, or if it's not aligned with your values or your family goals or things like that, what are we doing here? And so that's why I created AncHer, because I wanted to support women, in particular mothers, who it's like this triad, right? This triangle, if you will. It's like motherhood is here, your career is here, and then your financial health or life is here, right? And how are all three of those being supported? And so that's why I remember early on too, when I was getting feedback, people were like, you have to pick one or the other. I'm like, no, I don't. That's why I'm creating what doesn't exist. Okay. Like,
Right.
don't fit me into this mold of I have to be a career coach or I have to be a money coach. Like, I
Mm,
am I'm building these two worlds together, because your career supports your finances and your
yeah.
finances will ultimately support your career. So I see them as one and the same. Um, and so yeah, I feel like I was getting lost in that thought there, because people are always telling me I gotta pick, and I'm like, stop trying to box me in.
That's
But yes, I felt
hilarious.
that that needed to exist, which is why I created AncHer.
Yeah. I wonder if like when you guys have your clients, what kind of clients I guess usually come to you? Is it the moms that kind of are trying to find the the middle point between career and finance, or is it the mom that's just in a new season and trying to figure out like how do I plan out my life
Yeah.
so that I'm not giving up my career and my motherhood or my motherhood?
Yeah, it's more the latter, where it's like, I have these kids, but I'm still ambitious and it's like
Yeah.
brewing in me, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to miss anything out on my kids, but I also have this amazing career opportunity. Like, what do I do with this? So it's really more so about balancing. So for this particular example, we can lump career and money together. Um, and the motherhood. So I feel like
Yeah.
usually that's what's at odds. And it's just, and people tell me this all the time, and they're like, you speak so confidently about it. Like, what is that? A lot of this has been work, let me tell you, between therapy, mentors, coaches, my own self-coaching, all of the above. Um, but it's usually, how do I do this? And I actually am starting with a new client tomorrow, and I'm so excited for her. Because I remember when we first started, it was like, when the kids get older, I'll do X. And I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, it gets worse when they get older, right? Because you got to start driving them around to activities, and you got to do
Yeah.
what, like, again, there's never a perfect time. And what I try to reiterate to my mothers is, there isn't a perfect time. And also, these kids at some point, and maybe 25 nowadays, maybe they don't leave the house at 18 anymore, whatever, everything's expensive. Happy to keep my baby as long as he needs to. But at some point, he is going to grow and go, right? So, what is going to be left for you? What is still going to light you up? What is still going to fill your cup? And then the last thing that I often share with these mothers is, when you pour into you, you will just become a better person for yourself and for those that you're supporting, right? Like, depleting yourself of your interests and what lights you up is not in service to others around you or that are depending on you. So I just like to throw in that little reminder there, because, we're just naturally taught you can't, do both. You got to pick one. And I'm like, mm-mm.
I do have to push back on that because I kind of see the perspective of like wait
I
till
think,
they're older
oh,
because you're like I want to make sure that I'm present right now, right?
yeah,
Like I can see okay, maybe I'm following my interests, maybe I'm learning here and there, but to
yeah,
try to be like, I'm gonna be a career person as
yeah,
well as be a, someone who stays at home.
yeah,
Some moms will be like, well, you're gonna miss some stuff. You're gonna
yeah,
some balls are gonna drop, right?
yep,
So how do you encourage those moms who are like, it probably is best for me to wait. I
yeah,
mean, I see what you're saying,
yeah,
obviously, because kids are as fickle can
yeah.
be. Like,
Yeah.
So how do you kind of reconcile the two?
I think you have to clarify, what does present mean for you, right?
Mm,
Um, so I mean, I literally text somebody this the other day when they were like, "Oh, I'm considering being, a stay-at-home parent." Great. I know, Khiara, I'm a better mom when we got some space. You know what I mean? Like, I could not imagine, and this is no knock to people who are home with their
yeah,
kids all the time. I think it's a gift that Khiara does not
yeah,
have, right? But again, what does present mean to you?
yeah,
And present means different things in different seasons. Present when they're a newborn, And you're
Yes.
breastfeeding, yes. Present when they're in daycare anyway, and they may likely gonna take their first steps, different, versus keeping
Yeah.
them at home. Present when they're in elementary school, etc. Right? So I think getting really, really clear on what does it mean to be present for you, and then I would say work backwards. But I mean, you literally, unless the kid is home with you 24/7 and maybe you're homeschooling and doing all the things, like you're gonna miss something. You know what I mean? And I
Mm.
think you have to be okay with that under the parameters of what does present mean for me. So that's a good point. And I asked myself that question too, because when I was a consultant and, we got pregnant, et cetera, I was like, well, what if I took a job that I like travel 4 days out of the month? I
Mm.
was fine with that because again, that space, I was like, it refuels me. It gives me the space and time and energy to breathe. But some people may say absolutely not. Like I want to be able to pick up every day, et cetera. So that's what I
Yeah, I
guess.
think that's a good point. And I would even mention with homeschool, there's like enrichment programs and other stuff that
Yeah.
they're going to. That's so like they're not always with you
Right.
all the way. So there's like we were talking about, sometimes there is that belief that, women have to sacrifice children
Uh-huh.
or sacrifice career. It's literally that this pinpoint. And there is even that, and I think that belief has fed over into culture where
Mhm.
people or women are starting to believe that, and I
Right.
definitely do not believe this. That it's because of my children that I can't do X and Y
Right.
and Z,
Right.
or my children ruined my life. And I'm like,
Right.
absolutely not. So
Yeah.
how does Anchor help falsify that for women? And
Mhm.
in what ways can a woman hold fast to both? Are there moments of sacrifice that must take place?
I say yes. Unless you have all the money in the world for the everyday family and person, yes, there are sacrifices. And this is where I go back to like it being and I'm laughing again because I just edited this part of my manuscript, but it's a cycle or seasons, right?
Mm,
Cycle seasons, etc. Um, and that's what I really help women do is be like, okay, let's start off like just high level. What do you want? What do you think you want? Right? Like take off the limitations, take off the expectations that are placed on you. What do you want? And then I kind of work backwards and say, okay, by when? Do you have a time frame or is it just before I hit, you know, 50 or 60 or whatever, And that's different for every person. And that's why I kind of am like a little when it comes to advice because I'm like, it's so tailored. Like everyone's desires are going to be slightly different, at least, if not different in a larger amount. And so for me, I do think there are going to be sacrifices at some point, unless there's just unlimited time, which we don't have, that's finite, and unlimited resources, meaning your support system, your village, etc. And so I think you have to figure out in what season are you willing to be maybe a little less present as a parent.
mm,
Or you really want to be more present as a parent, etc. And that's just the reality of it. I know there's a lot of talk of like, oh, you can't have it all. I think you can have it all. I just don't think you can have it all at the very same time, unless, like I said, unlimited resources for caregiving. And we know what that takes out of us, right? Or again, if you have even, businesses and organizations that support you more with leave, right? Or child care credits or things to that effect. I think that makes a huge difference. But yes, I do believe there are seasons.
yeah, I agree too. I would say that there's because I think my company offers this too, is like child daycare
Mhm.
where you can save money.
Yeah.
It's like more like FSH, save money
Yep.
so that you are able to, if you need it, the days you need it, you can use that money. So if I am a mom trying to achieve the next level in my career, which I guess I am a mom
Yeah.
in a career, what strategies or steps would you suggest I take, and how do those differ from those without children would need to do?
Yeah. So I would say the first thing I always tell people is just 15 minutes. Move away from your phone,
Mm,
move away from any screen, get a piece of paper and a writing utensil. I sound like an old school teacher. Um, and just sit with yourself and be like, the dream for a second. What do I truly want? Right? Is it more money? Is it more influence? Is it more leadership capability? Do I really want to be that executive? Okay, that's one part of it. And look at all different parts of your life. How do I want to show up as a wife right now, a partner, a mother? That's one. And then what do I want for myself, right? And I would say write all of that down and then see and connect where the themes are. That's number one. Getting crystal clear about what you want, not again what society is telling you, not what your college counselor told you 10 years ago is like the typical steps to get to X. Um, Start there. And then I would say work with a mentor, a coach, or something to that effect, because usually these outside perspectives can see things that you necessarily can't, or even a trusted friend, right? Um, and then I would sit there and say, okay, what are the 1 to 2 things that I want to accomplish in the next 6 months to a
Mhm.
year, etc. Right. And just start small, small time frames. Don't, and nothing has to be super big or overpowering or anything like that. But that's always, always, always my number one is let's get crystal clear on what you truly want.
I have to ask, what if what you want, both of what you want feels like it contradicts with each other?
Give me an example.
Oh, okay. I want money,
Okay.
but
Okay,
right?
hold on.
Don't
Like, for
don't we
example,
all?
if you're like, I want a traveling job, but then I also want to be a present mom, something to that effect.
Yeah, something to that effect. Like I want to show up for every single practice,
Hmm.
every single play,
Hmm.
every single thing. But also like the job that I want, like I see people who have it, they're on the plane every single week.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah, and that's where I think you have to ask yourself in this season, what is more important, right?
Mm,
Maybe it's like I want to be at every dance practice right now, and while she or he is building that foundational skill, they're just learning, absorbing so much. But I know when they hit 4th grade that the focus is going to turn back to me a little bit more. Like we have to be realistic with you can, maybe unless you work for yourself and it's like more entrepreneurial, you can't you're only one person, you can't be
yeah,
everywhere all the time. So again,
yeah.
it would be back to that, okay, this is what I want. Great. We've clarified. I want that travel job. I also want to be a present parent. Next layer of that. In what season?
Mm. I love that. I think what you're saying is it's not, and you've said it. It's like we can have it all, but not at
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like perhaps what I want is not going to be accomplished right now.
Right.
And so my question is, what are those in that like waiting season, in
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
present season?
Hmm.
What would your suggestion be to them to know that to keep the faith that one day
Yeah.
it will happen? What should they do? How should they still kind of keep going so that they're not because career is changing so much.
Mhm.
What is what will make money now is different. I mean, we
Right.
have AI and all of that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
everything is shifting. So how do can they make sure that they're not missing that golden moment of opportunity?
Yeah, stay engaged. So, for example, I love the AI example, right? Like, say I'm making this up. Somebody wants to be, I don't know, an AI VP at X company, but you know that you can't do that right now because it does require you to be on the road Monday through Friday, etc. Start taking little certifications, continue to
Mm,
build your skill set and stay engaged. Talk to people who are at those levels and at that roles, like really stay engaged and lit up about whatever it is until your time comes. So, you don't, it's not like a all or nothing, right? Just really staying. So, okay, right now in 3 years, I know I'm going to apply for this said role that we just made up. But until then, I'm going to network. I'm going to join organizations. I'm going to get the AI XYZ certification, etc. Like that is how I also recommend people who are just like, not right now. I'm like, okay, cool. That's fine. Let's just make sure, because to your point, things are moving so fast. What we do today may not even apply in 3 years, which is kind of crazy to say. You know what I
yes,
mean? So
yes.
just keeping up with the industry. And I think it'll keep that mother engaged in what's going on, still excited about it. Or it could be the completely opposite, where it's like, actually, I thought I wanted that. And I am glad I had this experience before I made the big investment in taking a role as such. And then you pivot from there. Um, so that's what I would say for anyone who's kind of just like in that waiting game. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And it's
Yeah.
just, a lot of this is mindset too. Like a lot of it is mindset, confidence, showing up, and that's the softer work that I love doing, like numbers is one thing, numbers are black and white, it is or isn't, but more of that softer skill set. And that's another thing too, like even the client that I'm working with right now, like we're building that softer skill set of being authoritative, feeling comfortable pushing back and saying no to people. And those are the more softer skills versus her, financial acumen or anything like that.
No, I think that's so important because as someone who I would say I'm now just building that like
Hmm.
no,
Hmm.
no,
Yeah.
that no skill, it can feel triggering or feel a little bit, uneasy when you have to, you kind of have to step back. And I think also when you speak about mindset, accepting where you are now
Mhm.
is a key thing
Yeah.
because yes, things are moving, but trusting in yourself or
Mhm.
I'm a Christian, so trusting in God that
Uh-huh.
things are going to work out,
Yeah, when they're
you
supposed to,
when
right?
they're
Like,
supposed to, right?
yeah.
And yeah, so like not rushing yourself and
Oh, and easier
not
said than
allowing
done.
society to rush you.
I was just about to say, we live in the world of comparison right now,
Yes.
especially with social media and things like that. Like, wow, she looks like she's got XYZ all together. But you don't know what she's truly had to give up. You don't know if there
Mm,
is a nanny, a house cooker, a cleaner, this, that. You just don't know, right? Unless
yeah.
someone's like super open about what all that stuff looks like. So yes, like and this is what I'm learning as I get older too, is I feel like it's really hard to appreciate a season when you're in it. But when you
Yes.
are out of that season or out of that thing or out of that whatever, and you look back and you're like, wow, that was either redirection, rejection was redirection, it built me to get to where I'm at today. Like there's always a seed in the seed. Like there's always a lesson, you know what I mean? But I think with how busy we are nowadays and all that, it's really hard to understand that and see that silver lining when you're in it.
No, and I would say the comparison part plays a huge
Yeah.
role in
Mhm.
today's society where we're
Mhm.
like, everybody wants to be rich, famous,
Yes, yes, yeah. Well, yeah, I don't want
and
I
have
I
the
don't mind
best
being rich.
kids.
I don't wanna be famous though. I want impact, but no, I get what you're saying, you know?
That is funny.
Yeah.
So what would you say, how important is hustle culture for a mom, and is it sustainable when you have children or multiple children?
Yeah, I don't subscribe to hustle culture.
Okay.
Just some of what we just kind of even talked about, what I was sharing before with my own my health journey at this point, my body is telling me I need more rest, right? Um, I just have a different relationship with hustle and grind, and I don't think it's synonymous with ambitious. I think you could still be ambitious and still have boundaries and still be well rested. There's a book, what is her name? Huffington. I can't think of the name right now, but it was all about rest, right? And like how sleep actually helps you become like a better leader,
Better.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And better in all facets. So I don't subscribe to the hustle culture. I am no longer interested in working myself to the bone to get to anything, whether that be entrepreneurially. I still work, a corporate job myself as well. And it goes back to my boundaries. Like, this is what I'm willing to do. I mean, my do not disturb goes on at 7. Good luck to anyone who's trying to catch me after that. Um, it goes on 7 p to 7 a. And I had to, right? And part of that was me saying, I'm going to be a present parent. And so, that's like bedtime and dinner, and we read books every night, and that's our routine. And I wanted to be forced to be present with him, and that not seeing my phone light up every 30 seconds. Um so yeah, and I had to get there. you know, it took time to get there. You feel like you're missing something, etc. And what I always tell myself is I am not, doing brain surgery, right? Like if
Mm,
I miss a
I
call,
say that
if I don't
too.
miss a call from somebody, everybody's going to be all right. You know what I mean? Like I'm not an air traffic controller. You know what I mean? Like everybody's going to be all right. So, um, anyway, again, you just kind of have to get to that point where you become okay with that. And I think, again, back to society, like it's that microwave society, right? It's like always being on, always comparing, always seeing what's the latest and greatest. And I just don't subscribe to that anymore. But it took time to get there because I thought ambition meant being available 24/7, working to the bone, being available all the time. And honestly, my sweet baby boy really helped me refine what that looks like. And I don't want that anymore in my life. That's just not where I'm at.
Do you think that society will ever get to the point where we no longer view that like, you have to grind, 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 grind,
Yeah.
grind? And I ask that because things are shifting, but
Mhm.
we are still in that, ability of like, you have to work hard. I
Yeah.
mean, generationally, we're seeing a
Mhm.
shift. Or yeah, people say Gen Z are different or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
But like, will we ever get to that point where you see in other societies, other cultures,
Yeah.
where like at 12, everybody's going home for family, you
Right.
know?
Right. Or
So like,
siesta or something.
yeah, siesta or something like that. Like, I wish
Yeah.
that would happen here. Like, so do
Yeah.
you think that will ever be the mindset? Or
I would love to say I wish, but
mm,
realistically, I don't think so, especially and this is specific to the US right now anyway, where we're at. Um, I just don't see it. With
mm,
everything getting more expensive, like that doesn't signal work less. You know what I mean? It's like I
yes,
gotta work more, I gotta
work
work harder, I
more.
gotta work
Yes,
2, 3 jobs, I gotta work,
yes,
so I would love to see that because again, I think once people are restful and they're doing things that they want to do and are paid well just to cover basics,
yes.
I think we'd be so much better off, but that's just not where we're at right now. I'm hopeful, not in my lifetime, but no.
So always wonder this because we've spoken about seasons, and sometimes it's okay to like, have a
Mhm.
plan, but allow yourself to rest in the season that you are
Yeah.
in. Do you think that as a mom that's career ambitious, if you're working right now, can you afford to job hop, or is it just better for you to, move up within a company and try to get
Sure.
to that area of executiveness that you want to get to?
I mean, historically, the data shows that if you want to move quicker, you're gonna hop, right? And millennials get a bad rap about this, hopping every two. We're not boomers where we sit somewhere for 50 plus years, right? Times are just different, things are
Yeah.
just completely different. So I think it goes both ways. Are you with an organization that is forward thinking, that takes the time, energy, and resources to grow their people?
Mm,
Absolutely, Um, but are you at an organization where they keep you in a role for 5 plus, 10 plus years without growth and development? You probably need to hop. So I think it really just depends on the culture of the organization, if you stay and are they moving you or not. So I think it's really corporation dependent. So I think it could go both ways.
perfect. So we're wrapping up now. Okay, so if I'm a mom listening to this conversation, what is the first step you would suggest, especially if I long to be executive or in a
Mhm.
better financial position?
Yes. So one, I would say pause and literally tell yourself whether mirror or not, like you deserve what you want.
Mm.
You have worked hard. I mean, listen, you can negotiate fruit snacks at 6 a.m. Trust me, you can handle a lot more than you think, right? So give yourself the grace and space to just, like I said, just dream for a second, right? And if you're really wanting to get to senior executive leadership roles, especially, I was just talking to a girlfriend actually about this. Like nowadays, unless you are hand delivered to, the recruiters or so forth, like it takes a good 6 months to a year to really get, to interview, to get the job and the roles that you want. So I would say be realistic with the search
Hmm.
and get the support, whatever that support means, whether it's connecting with a headhunter, executive recruiters, working with a coach like myself. And then as far as that financial piece, I know we didn't talk too much about personal finance, but the one thing that I always do, like the first activity that I do with my clients that I absolutely love is I'm like, okay, what do you think you're spending on these buckets, right? What is
Mm.
important to you? And then if they allow me to do so, which no one has told me no yet, we sit through the last 3 months of all their expenses. We
Oh no.
compare what they think they're spending to what they're actually spending. And it is just a light bulb moment to be like, wow, like Chick fil A adds up. Okay. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Or, you know, I mean, karate fees, just you name it, right? And I'm
Yeah.
fine with you spending that if it's truly in alignment with what you said you want, right? Like,
Mm,
oh, we want to do more family vacation, less stuff. Like, my thing is less stuff, more travel, right? Like, that's kind of my
mm.
bucket of where we're at as a family right now. And is that because let me tell you, where you spend your money is going to tell you what is important to you in that season of life, right? Unless you're just completely not tracking any of your finances. And that's also an opportunity as well, too. I'm not saying check your bank account every day, but you need to be having a money date with yourself or your partner or whoever, at least at a minimum once a month, right? Because you got to see where am I at and where are the gaps, where am I leaking money, etc. And so, of course, little shameless plug again, that's why I kind of look at all of it holistically. Because if not, you have to work with a money coach and then you have to work with a
Yeah.
career person, etc. But I'm really trying to really shed some light on why it truly is holistic. And that's kind of my message overall. And then adding the motherhood layer on there, which is truly like the identity work and so forth. So I say reach out to, a resource as myself or any of the other ones that I mentioned. Um, and just start like you deserve. Like you deserve.
So you're writing a book. What's your book about, and when is it going to be released?
Oh gosh. Okay, the pressure. Okay, so my book is really about how I feel like corporate America has gotten motherhood all wrong in
Mm,
terms of seeing motherhood as a liability for women in executive roles versus like a competitive advantage. And I am explaining how where we're currently at, what I currently see, more forward progressive organizations doing to maintain those mothers internally in the organization, support them, grow them, retain them, recruit them, etc. And kind of like the playbook to do so. So very excited about that. Having lots of fun conversations right now. Writing a book is a labor of love. Let me tell you that. I am not writing this book to get rich. It's more so because, I feel like currently I'm doing my part by coaching women to gain this confidence, to get this, these skill sets. But if the organizations that they're applying to and they're working for aren't on board, there's still a gap, right? So I'm trying to elevate the women, the mothers, as well as elevate and support these organizations to get an alignment to support these women into the executive roles. As far as when it'll be released, right now we're just gonna say spring 2027. I'm on track, but you just never know with manuscripts and editing and creative energy and things of that sort. But I'm very excited about it, and my book coach has been phenomenal with this whole process. So thank you for asking.
Congratulations.
Thank
I want
you.
to end with a fun question that I've been seeing. Hopefully, it's still fun when this gets released, which I think so. But on social media, and it started last year, where someone asked, "Well, if you were offered
Oh yes.
120K
Yeah.
remote or
Yep.
240 in office, which
Right.
one would you take? And what would you think for a mom?
Yeah.
Which one would you say
I
to take?"
I'm gonna respond with Kiara and then I'll talk about more broad.
Yeah.
Kiara's gonna go after the $240,000 role because
Really?
to that you have a different how do I say this? You have different access at 240 than you're gonna have. I think what was it, 100 or 120, whatever
20,
it was.
yeah,
Yeah,
20.
120. At 240, I got a babysitter. I got someone who's cooking my meals. I have, whatever's important to you and your family, etc.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
And that gap between, just increasing your overall salary, like that's huge.
Mm,
So that's what Kiara would do. But if I'm coaching someone, again, what season are you in right now? You know what I mean? Like, are you in a season where you really need to be home because you're caring for a sick, elderly, parent? You got 3 kids doing XYZ, and that's where you feel like you need, but you're supported by your partner who can close that gap, etc. Um, so I don't want to just respond like it should be one or the other. I truly think it just depends on where that person is in their life, in their career, in their family life, etc. But Kiara's gonna go after the money because there's just there once you elevate to that, there's just generally you don't go backwards, right? If you stay in corporate America, and it's just such a large gap, and women were already underpaid. I mean,
yeah.
even if you get more granular with women of color, um, And I just think, again, you have different access the more money you have, right? So that's my short answer. What would you do? I'm curious.
Uh, I
You said
have
Lily, so I'm assuming you're
okay,
considering the
so
remote
I would
role.
say I love all you said, and you know what, this is a difficult question because I understood what you're saying, which is at 240, yes, my kids who that we will be more than well taken care of.
Yeah.
But I have like she's gonna be 2
Mhm.
in April. So I still have a toddler and then I
Okay.
have
Yeah.
an almost 4-year-old.
Work.
So I'm home right now. So yeah, I will want to keep being home
Yeah.
with my babies because I like to keep them at least till they're 5
Okay. Yeah.
because
And
I want them.
that's beautiful. And that's again, that's great because you have a very clear season. You're like, I'm doing what I need to do to be present until they hit 5. So you said almost 2-year-old, so we got 3 more years, what is that,
Yes.
2029? So you're
Yes.
like, then okay, I'm building up my skill set
Yes.
until 2029, and this is where I'm at, and I'm good with that, and that works for
Yeah.
me and my family. But then when 2030 comes, and I'll reach back out to you and text you. No, I'm
And you're
just
like,
kidding.
what are you
I
doing?
I know, as long as we're not like, well, when they get into 5th grade and when they get into graduate high school at 18, Um,
Yeah.
but no, all jokes aside, that's where you're at, and that's okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what works for you, and the hardest part's gonna be for you is probably seeing those comparisons, right?
Yes,
Uh,
for sure. I think that
yeah,
is the hardest part for me is seeing
mm,
those comparisons because like I know where I could reach, but I'm like,
right.
no, I like them home.
Yeah.
So that's
And
definitely
again, with the comparison game too, are you truly comparing apples to apples, right? Did that
mm,
person go and take that 300K in-person job? You can't compare yourself to her journey, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, comparison is a thief of joy, so just remember that. We're all on
Hey.
our own race here.
Agreed. Well, how can people reach out to you if they're interested in like being coached financially or career-wise?
Yeah, so you can find us on I'm not super active because I'm in the middle of writing this book, but, I do check everything and I respond to DMs and all that kinda stuff. I gotta get my posting game back up, but we're
Mhm.
on Instagram at the Anchor Co, and that's ANCHER
All right.
CO, on Instagram. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My email is also Khiara at AncHer Co .com, and I'm very responsive, although like I said, my Instagram is not super active right now, but I promise it's
It's
because
the
I'm writing this
season.
book.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Kiera.
Thank
I
you for
love this
reaching
conversation.
out.
This was awesome. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who listened and who watched.
Yes.
And we will see you next time on Busy Moms Get It Done.